The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 21st chapter. Jesus said to the disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on the earth distress among nations, confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to take place, stand up and raise your heads, because redemption is drawing near." Then Jesus told them a parable. "Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they sprout leaves, you can see for yourselves and know that summer is already near. So also when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of God is near. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Be on guard, so that your hearts are not weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life, and that day catch you unexpectedly like a trap. For it will come upon all who live on the face of the whole earth. Be alert at all times, praying that you may have the strength to escape all these things that will take place and to stand before the Son of Man. This is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. I invite you to reach into your pockets, your purses, or wherever they might be, and pull out your keys. Do folks have keys with them? Keys? I hear some jangling and jingling. Everybody have some keys? All right, so keep your keys with you. And what I'm going to invite you to do, if you are comfortable, and if you are not comfortable with sharing, then feel free to just look at your keys on your own. That's totally okay too. But if you're comfortable, I'd like for you to find someone close to you and give them a tour of your keys. What's on your keys? What keys do you carry on you? Where do they go? What's your keychain? Share with one another about your keys. Do you have keys on you? We don't know what some of the keys are for, and you're carrying them every day. That's extra weight in your pocket. You're just working out a little more. It's just giving you a little bit of extra resistance in your purse. Others? Other things you learned about each other? So there are some keys that you don't know what they belong to. How many have a key that they carry with them regularly that you have no idea what it belongs to? Yeah, all right. How about those of us who have keys to doors or items that we have either no access to anymore or don't need access to anymore, or couldn't access if we went back because they probably rekeyed it. Anybody carry that with you all the time? Yeah. All right, how many have a house key on their keychain? Yeah, good, house keys. All right, how many of you have a home key? A key that is home. That could be your house key. Do you have a place that is your home key? Yeah. How many of you have that key that no longer is what you can access? Right, does that make any sense? Is actually your home key. Anybody? Okay, so here's the key that I didn't share. So I've got church keys and I have house keys, and I keep them on this keychain so that I can remove them and just carry the keys that I need. This one lives in my office and has lived in my office my entire ministry. It moves from office to office. I don't know what these things are. A jewelry club for piercing pagoda. And a Discover Card nationwide auto plan, and keys to, I have no idea what those are for, luggage maybe? But this one, I know exactly what this one is for. This is from my college years, and this is maybe not an illegal key, but this is definitely an illicit key. I did not sign for this key. I confess this to you, my brothers and sisters in Christ. And this key could get me into the theater. I was a theater major. And this key could get me into the theater any time of day or night I wanted to go. And I keep this key, even though I am sure that by now the university must have caught on that these kinds of keys are out there illicitly, and probably as we keep the building in the intervening number of years. And I still keep this key, right? Because it was for me at a time, my home key. Right? When everything would just be going crazy and wild. I don't know if any of you ever had a moment where you felt a little out of control or overwhelmed when you were in your late teens, early 20s. But I certainly did. And when I was feeling overwhelmed and didn't know what to do, I would think of the phrase, I just want to go home. How many of you have ever thought that phrase when overwhelmed? I just want to go home. Right? And for a time in my life, that was this key. This key was my home key. It wasn't my parents' house, it wasn't my dorm room, it was the stage. And it was getting to be in that place with the ghost light on, in the dark and in the quiet. And that was home. Right? So this is my home key at that time in life. Now it's probably the key to this room for me. So we have these ideas of what home is. And home changes as we get older and as we shift and as our lives shift. So home can be our house, can be where we live, but when we're in those moments when things are huge and dark and foreboding and the world is changing and things are hard and we think, I just want to go home, what is the place that you think of? Where do you think of? Anyone dare to tell what home is? Tiana?
My parents' farm in Boise.
Parents' farm in Boise. Yeah.
I've heard the expression, home is where the heart is.
Home is where the heart is. That's a familiar expression. We hear that a lot. So it's where our heart might be. Charlotte, you had your hand up? In your closet? Yeah. Home can be like a safe space in our house. Yeah?
Lori is my home.
Lori is home. Beautiful.
The outdoor chapel at Camp Colton.
The outdoor chapel at Camp Colton. I have heard so many beautiful stories of Camp Colton. And these places are home for us. Right? When I'm feeling overwhelmed, home can be the house I grew up in as a teenager. Not the house that my mom lives in now, but the house where I didn't have to pay the bills, wash the dishes, buy the groceries, right? Like, home is that place where I'm taken care of and safe. Home is that place where you know where you belong. Home is that place where the relationships are good and solid and hopeful. That is home for us. And I think that as human beings, we have been longing for home since we left the Garden of Eden. In that place where we were in right relationship with God, and we were in right relationship with one another. And we have been longing for a home for time immemorial. And we find it in moments, and we find it in places, but we are longing for home. And in a time when the world is crazy and undetermined and violent and frightening, that longing for home comes up in us. And for some, it is literally coming up in their worlds, that they are longing for a home because theirs has been destroyed. Our gospel today, the Gospel of Luke, is the parallel to the Gospel of Mark that we heard a few weeks ago when I had the Jenga game out. Only the section we read in Mark was the falling of the temple, and then I talked about the rest of the chapter talking about the end times. Well, the Gospel of Luke reading that we have now, we just heard, but right before this would have been the falling of the temple, and now we're hearing about these end times. These times when people are so fearful and so scared that they are looking down and afraid and almost ready to faint with fear. Anyone seen anyone recently so weighed down that they're ready to faint from fear? Every time I turn on the radio, every time I don't have television, so I don't have to watch the news, interrupting all the time, but on any kind of social media, people pulling things up and showing things. It's everywhere right now. Where people are so afraid. And fear is motivating so much of how we interact with one another and what we do, and policies are being set, and all of these things. Fear, this so afraid almost as to fainting. Because the world is so scary. So what does Jesus tell us in that time? What does Jesus tell us to do? Did you catch it? When this is about to happen, when these things are happening, people of faith, what are you to do? Lift up your heads. Don't be caught looking down and being afraid and gathering up. I feel like I'm getting into derby position, right? I'm getting ready to take some hits here. I'm down and hunkered. And instead of being down and hunkered and scared, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to stand up and lift our heads and look up. Right? Because our redemption is drawing near. So the unique thing about this is that the word that Luke uses for the word redemption, this is the only time that Greek word is used in our Gospels. It's used in Paul. Paul uses this Greek word, but in our Gospels, this is the only time it's used. And the word redemption there has this meaning of ransom, of a fee being paid, so someone can be set free. Christ has come and is our key to our handcuffs. That's what we're waiting for, right? Is for Jesus to come and set us free from this fear that is breaking us apart from one another, that is holding us with our hands behind our back, unable to be effective and to make change in our world, because we let handcuff be our fear, right? And we're stuck and we're trapped. And Jesus comes and pays for that fear. That payment is made and takes that key and unlocks us and says, stand up, look up. Because we're going to get to go home. That's the promise. That's the promise. We get to go home. Where relationships are good and right. Where all have enough and where we are safe and where we are cared for. Our true home. And until we stop being trapped by our fear, we're not going to find home. We're just going to be trapped in fear. So this week, as you carry your keys to houses and to cars and to storage units and to offices and to children's homes and to friends' houses and to old theaters and whatever it is that you're carrying in your pocket, I want you to have a home key, at least in your heart. That key where Jesus unlocks you from your fear and sets you free to love and free to find home in our world now. Because that's the kingdom. So where's your home key?